Okay, so welcome to assessment 2. So this is what the workshop is culminating in, is this creation of an innovative proposal and innovative plan. And so we're going to look in this video at your planning stage and what that planning stage looks like and what you need to include in that. Remembering that you have all the information available to you. So this document is the same document that you also have available to you, and you also have the rubric that you should be looking at to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident with what you have completed. Rubrics are really, really important because they allow you to understand what you are being assessed on. So if I can give you any bit of advice for this assessment, it's to make sure that as you go through and as you tick off all of these sections, that you go back to the rubric and you feel comfortable and confident that you have achieved what you have set out to. So let's have a little bit of a closer look at what the plan involves. And the plan section is, what are you trying to do? What do you want to do? And what are you creating when we talk about innovation? And remember, we've already talked and looked at what innovation is, different challenges to innovation, why we need to innovate in the classroom as well. So this idea of innovation isn't new to you by now. When we're talking about innovation, it's a reminder that it doesn't have to be brand new and shiny, okay? That can be a great way to be able to innovate, but really at the focus of innovation, it has to be about student learning outcomes. What am I trying to get these students to achieve? Is it being beneficial to student learning, and will I be able to show that improvement or show that benefit to student learning as well? So let's have a look at this first part here, and it's our planning section. We're defining innovation goals and measurable outcomes. We're considering current activities that you have placed within your school or class, and think back to your placements that you've already had when we're thinking about this, or even you can even think back to your school, your own schooling. So what current activities did they have? What's going on in that school? What does it look like? Ideally, you'll be able to connect this back to your pre-service teaching and your placements, but if you can't, you have all had experience in classrooms and schools before, whether it's at the front of the classroom or being a part of it as well. So you can think about those activities that are currently there too. The next part is completing a SWOT analysis, and that's really important. We're going to go through that in a second too. We need to then identify factors which could be improved, and identify opportunities that can be created as well. Let's have a look at our SWOT analysis tool. And this is really important because this is what teachers do on almost a day-to-day basis. We might not necessarily write it down every day and go SWOT and list it out, but we do constantly evaluate and reflect. Even those examples of assessments in innovation that I've already given you, they next year will not look the same. They will not look the same year on after, because every time that we do this, we're always thinking of new ideas and new ways to be able to improve that student learning. It also might depend on the student cohort that we have in that year. Who are the students that I have? What needs do they have? Does this assessment or does this innovation help with that, or does it hinder? How do I go about changing this? You'll find that even if you've taught health for 10 years, every year it looks slightly different. It might be a major difference because you have these great grand ideas, or it might just be a small difference in what you're presenting to students. So when we talk about a SWOT analysis, we're talking about strengths, so factors that are likely to have a positive effect or enable achieving schools' objectives. And schools' objectives can be as simple as curriculum. It could be particular ethos that a school has, or it could be a theme for the year. So different schools that I have been involved with have had different themes. So the current themes at my school at the moment, we have one about globalization and allowing, or global perspectives, allowing our students and encouraging our students to have a global perspective on things. And that works perfectly in health. Even that board game, I would say, about global health is a really great way for students to be able to think about different global perspectives, to think about different global health opportunities, and for them to be able to engage in that. So I would say that innovative idea, a positive effect of that, is that it does have that connection to my school's learning objectives for the year, one of which is global perspectives. It could be, though, thinking back to how does this connect to Victorian curriculum or to VCAR study design as well, or maybe VCAL if VCAL is something that you are looking at as well. So how does it connect? How would I go to my principal and say, this is why, this is a strength, this is why it's really good, because it's going to be able to help with this curriculum or with this a school objective that your school has. Weaknesses, so factors that are likely to have a negative effect or be a barrier to achieving the school's objectives. Okay, so really thinking about what are different factors, pretty much the opposite there from those strengths, that might be a barrier to achieving those school objectives. Opportunities, when we're looking at opportunities, we're looking at factors that have a positive effect of achieving the exceeding school's objectives or goals not previously considered. So what are some things that these students might get out of this that don't necessarily have to be in a school's objective, or it doesn't have to be in the school curriculum? What are some things? Is it the fact that we are cross-curricular? So maybe if we're creating a task around healthy nutrition and healthy food, is there an opportunity for things like food tech to be able to get involved? If I'm creating a story, let's say, around nutrition and food health, or around relationships and what a healthy relationship looks like, is there a way for me to connect that to English co-curricular? Would that be an opportunity for me to be able to explore? Can I connect this through in some sort of technology way, or through literacy, or even numeracy as well? So what are some external factors that are likely to have a positive effect on achieving or exceeding the school's objectives or goals that were not previously considered? So what are some extras, bonuses, essentially, on top of this? When we're looking at threats, we're looking at what are some factors or conditions that might have a negative impact on me achieving the school's objectives or being able to fulfill this innovation. So threats can be something like the cost of it. So at one of my old schools, we in health for VCE in Unit 2, I think it is, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but we talk about reproduction and we talk about the different stages of life, but we also talk about pregnancy too. And so our school bought those kind of, dolls that are like lifelike, and you have to be able to feed them and pat them and make sure they're going to sleep and all sorts, which is fantastic because it gives students that one-on-one. Like, what a fantastic idea. But not every school can afford them, and not every school wants to put the money into this program. And that's understandable, because how often do we use them? Is it the use or the continued use of it? Is that going to be a threat? So if your innovation has some sort of cost, how can you then tell your principal that, hey, actually, even though it's got a little bit of a cost here, it might be really useful and there's an opportunity to use that in something like science or something like food tech or even English or maths or whatever other place in the school curriculum you might find opportunities for. Threats also might be things like your timetabling. It might be the fact that we only have certain hours in the school day. It might be a factor on how many school days we actually have available to teach. Do we have enough time to put aside 3 or 4 weeks to create an expo around mental health that we are able to communicate with the community, with parents and with colleagues. So threats can be any of those external kind of effects, and we've already talked about a lot of those challenges leading up to this as well. If we scroll down, it will give us our plan here. So this is what you need to be able to write in for your template and what you will eventually upload and be assessed on. So putting in the information here, your name, you're doing a SWOT analysis, so background to situation and connection to specialization. So tell me a little bit about what is going on in that classroom, what is going on in that school, what is it that you are trying to achieve with your innovation? So how does it connect through to health? Potential measurable outcomes. How will you know if you've succeeded? How will you know if it's been any good? How will you know that that innovation was worth putting all that time and effort and energy into? And obviously improvements and opportunities. So where can you see those improvements and opportunities for greater success or greater use as well? This is your SWOT analysis through here. Okay. The next part is talking about the pre-proposal, but making sure that we have that plan and that when we're feeling really confident. A reminder that when you're creating your idea about innovation, the sky is the limit. The only real limits are what is within that school confines. So, you really need to be thinking about what does the school day look like? Will other teachers be on board? What's the cost? All of those kinds of things too. So definitely no limits in terms of your ideas for your innovation, but that's where our opportunities and threats really come in to make sure that we can kind of see where we might find some stumbling blocks in it. All right, good luck.